Hey everyone, I'm Rene Ritchie from iMore, and right now I am talking to Marc Edwards of Bjango about the all-new iStat 2. So I am joined by Marc Edwards, the guiding mind behind Bjango, and they are releasing iStat 2 for iOS. How's it going, Marc?
Really good, really good.
What can you tell me about iStat 2 for iOS?
It's a complete rebuild. It's been a long time since we've worked on the app, so it gets to the point where you just need to start again, start fresh, look at everything, and it really is quite substantially different. There's a Mac server app, so it monitors your Mac or actually PCs this time. So we've got a Windows server app, and there's an open source Linux server app as well. So we've got hopefully everything covered quite well.
Is that a recognition of the market, the way Apple had to eventually make iTunes for Windows? Your user base is just that well dispersed now?
Look, I guess it's a little bit of that, and there's a lot of iOS users who have PCs, but it's also just a reflection of
the realities of the modern server room?
Yeah. Well, it's also it's something we've wanted to do for a long time. We've certainly had a lot of requests for, but we're predominantly an iOS and Mac shop, yeah. So this is something that's fairly new for us. Although we have back in the good old widget days, we did venture into Vista gadgets for a short while. Yeah, so this is.
So I've played around with iStat 2, and it immediately told me things about my Mac that I was unaware of. And I had to go fix things very quickly. Given what Apple restricts you to on iOS, it's remarkable to me that you can still provide that level of information.
Yeah, well, I guess there's two sides to it. So we provide iOS stats, and there is certainly some limitations in the usefulness of that and also in what we can display, but we display as much as we possibly can. Just probably more as a point of interest, the battery information is certainly very useful. The disk space information is very useful. There's a whole lot of networking and other stuff. Because iStat is the frontmost app, obviously it takes most of the CPU and most of the other stuff isn't that vital. But on a Mac, we provide everything possible that we can. So that stuff is very, very important, and might be handy for server admins, might be handy for people running large encoding tasks that are in the lounge room and just want to see if their iMac is finished or whatever, or even just as a second display, you could use an iPad to keep track of all your vital stats while you're working on something that's fairly heavy duty. So we've certainly. It's weird. We've built this as a very generic tool, but in the past we've had a lot of feedback from photographers, video editors, certainly a lot of people in music production, and just anything where there's a lot of heavy lifting involved, as well as server applications.
Well, I know for me, the ability to not have to get off my butt off the couch and still see everything that might be going on with the computer, especially if I suspect there's something that's giving me suboptimal performance, is very valuable, because it might be nothing and I don't have to move, or it might be something and I have to run, and I like being able to find that out.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, that's why this technology is here. It's all about making life easier. It's all about being lazier. So anything we can do to help with people being lazy and being able to not have to go into the office at 3 a.m. to check a server or whatever. Anything we can do to help, we will.
To leave the party at the pool and go into the server room. Exactly.
You don't want to leave the pool. You want to stay there. You want to just, check the server, fire off a few emails. That's it. Done.
Now, there are a few notable exceptions like Sideways, but it seems to me that Bjango's real forte is taking data that you don't otherwise have access to and putting it in a very easily accessible, very informationally dense, very presentable way on iOS. I mean, with Scala, you take Photoshop and you put it right on the device. With Consume, you take all your accounts for various providers and you put it right in front of you. And with iStat, you're doing that for all the basic information. Yet you do it in each case in a different way. It's never generic. How do you face that same task over and over again and still find fresh approaches to it?
I guess there's a lot of fun to be had in taking complex things and trying to simplify them and streamline them, and we really enjoy. And I think our skill sets are well suited to building tools, and that's sort of where our success has been in the past, and that's where we're planned for the future as well. So I think that's and iStat's been a whole lot of fun. It's been going for 7 years now in some form or another, and it's also one of those. Yeah. Well, it started with the iStat Pro widget.
Yeah.
Way back in 2005. I think it was sort of late 2005 when we launched that, and that also shows the difficulty of this problem to solve. We've had to buy almost every single Mac model released since to add support. I mean, we didn't do that since 2005, but we did start doing that more recently, just because to have great support for every single sensor, all the fans and temperatures and everything else, you have to have a lot of data. So it's a very, very difficult problem to solve, which is kind of fun in itself. It means we've also
all
enjoyed.
The toys.
Yeah, well, you get all the toys. We've also enjoyed a fair in what is normally a very, very crowded market for iOS for most apps. We've had this niche to ourselves, I think, just because it's so damn hard to get right.
It's a difficult problem to solve, and it's an even more difficult problem to solve well, I think is the case.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also one of those things where I think more technically minded people are probably interested in. So maybe the solutions out there may not have as much of a design focus as we do as well.
So I guess the last question I'm going to ask, Mark, is how do you use iStat on iOS? Are you constantly checking it? Do you just kind of give it a glance every once in a while? What's your personal ninja tip for getting the most out of it?
The iOS app I use, we have some Macs with Mac Mini Colo. Okay. So they are our servers. So that's one of the reasons we moved to Mac Mini Colo was because we wanted to use our own software to monitor. So that's where we run iStat server. So I definitely use it for that. I was waiting for the new Mac Minis to be released. I have an old Mac Mini here that's stuck on 10.5 and I'm having difficulties updating. So I think I'm going to have to buy a new one. And I'm about to run a server here as well. It's going to do hopefully a few automated things if I can get it to work.
All right, Mark. Well, where can people find out more about you, about Bjango, and about iStat for iOS?
Personally, I'm on the Iterate podcast with you.
Nice.
So yeah, and possibly some iMore shows. We are Bjango on Twitter, Bjango on app.net, and bjango.com for all of our apps, including iStat 2 when we launch.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Mark, and congratulations on iStat 2, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.